It's a Friday night, it's late, and welcome to Whale On. Tonight we're going to... That's another £2.5 million grand, I'll tell you. If I can sell the story. Now, do you believe everything you read in the newspapers? That's the question tonight. We get our news from all sorts of sources, and we're going to explore some of them. Now, here we go. Well, nice to see you. Friday night. I come in again because that was really good. I really enjoyed that. I just walk over here, and as soon as I come in, okay, Jerry, cue them, get them going. Here we go. Right. Oh. I thought I put you in charge of warming the entire audience up.
Yeah, I know, but didn't they do so well first?
Okay, news tonight. We've got a lot of eminent people in the broadcasting world. Newspaper editors, broadcasters, and Jerry Hayes and Gary Jacobs and Baz Bammingboy as well. But first, before we do that, where's the map? We have the map. Where is the map? The map should be here so that we can actually look at the map. The map is here. That's it. Because we like to dedicate the programme, as you know, to a different part of the United Kingdom. So tonight we're dedicating it to this little bit up here, Durness. Okay? Can we get a little close-up of that? There we are, Durness. Right in that bit there. And I wonder, is it not Durness? Yes. It is Durness. You've never heard of it? Yes, of course it is. Jerry Hayes doesn't know. There are no voters for you up there. If you happen to live there, this is dedicated to you. OK, so the whole programme dedicated to that little bit right at the top, up there. Very nice. Shall we hear a little round of applause for the people living in this part of the United Kingdom tonight? Over this way. Yeah. We tried to get Cookie, but she couldn't make it, and she was stuck somewhere. But you did a remarkably good job. Yeah, now piss off. Right, OK, now, the competition, I'm sorry, it was just a joke, I didn't mean it. It was very good. The competition tonight, now, this is where we pay the bills. Music business programme a few weeks ago, and by the way, thank you for the letters. We've had an extraordinary response to the programme on how to get into the music business, so bear with us, it will take a little time to get it sorted out. The winner from the programme a couple of weeks ago, Mark Lardy from Barnet in Hertfordshire, up on there, is off to Kos, so well done for you. Where did you get to?
I've had 2 hours to get to.
OK, you've had 2 hours to get to, right. Could you go over there and make sure that you... No. I mean, well, no, it's OK. Have you been working out and everything?
I have.
OK, that's fine. Cookie, as you know, we're going to get a new fitness video ready for this because Cookie is working out with weights, isn't it? It is. Yes, working out with weights, right. Now, competition. I never get thrown. No, there's no problem about that. A holiday for 2 people to Crete. And you could win this wonderful holiday if you could answer this simple question. What was it that Eve gave to Adam to eat in the Garden of Eden? Was it A... Well, I've got a cucumber, a marrow, or an apple on my script. Oh, a pomegranate, an apple, or a mango. Which one did Eve give to Adam to eat in the Garden of Eden? 0891 900 007. That number is open till midnight on Sunday, so start ringing now. would you like Frank Bough, ladies and gentlemen? Frank, come and join me up here. Come and sit down here. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Bough. Have a seat, Frank. Sit down there. That's it. Put the microphone on. That's great. I love it like that. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. It's wonderful to see. Just to sit beside you on television is an ambition of mine.
Why is that?
Well, I just is because I mean you are the Mr. Television. Mr. Television. You've been there for I don't know, just Mr. TV.
Well, I used to be Frank Bough. You remember that?
No, you are still Frank Bough. I don't care what anyone says. You are still Frank Bough. I'm just sit here and sit.
You're overdoing it.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're
overdoing
it. Yeah, just a bit.
Okay, right. I won't do a bit more. Right, Frank. News. When we look at the news, you were instrumental in, I think, the first time on Breakfast News, weren't you, on the BBC and various other news programmes, nationwide and everything else. When we look at news on the television, do we actually question what we see enough?
Well, my mother believes everything she reads in the newspapers, and I think believes everything she sees on television. So if she's a yardstick, perhaps she doesn't question at all.
Should we?
I don't think so, no. Certainly on television, we do desperate things to get it absolutely right. But of course it depends on entirely where you're standing. I mean, for example, the definition of bias, if you look at a television programme and you say, well, I don't believe that, or I don't agree with that, that means that it's not telling you what you want to hear. If you hear a programme and you agree with the points of view being expressed, then you're inclined to say, well, that's terrific, that is very, very even-handed and fair. I mean, that's the definition of bias. In other words, it's biased if it doesn't suit you, if it doesn't tell you what you want to hear.
But do the news editors who decide what you're going to tell the viewer, do they actually take the right parameters, if you like?
Well, I think they do.
You think they do?
Certainly in television. That's my business. I've never been a print journalist, but I've been a television journalist for 30-odd years. Certainly, the efforts to get the balance right have always been prodigious. As I say, you may not agree with the presentation of it, but it is, you know, we will say, well, that's that side of it. Can we balance it with this side of it? Whether you do it that moment or that day or that hour or next week, that's an arguable point.
We watch television quite a lot because we like the people who are on, and the news presenters now become, sometimes some people would say, more important.
No, they're not
than
news presenters, they're news readers.
News readers.
Yeah, I mean, one of the mysteries of my life is that how anybody can earn 150,000 quid a year for reading 25 minutes of news bulletin every week. Now, even if they've written it all, I'm still baffled by that. A presenter is somebody who has to think on his feet. You know, a grandstand of 4.5 hours, for example. I used to be able to say, for example, that I was the only one in Britain who, the only man in Britain, I was very privileged actually, because I was the only man in Britain who regularly, every Saturday afternoon, had a grandstand and kept it up for 4.5 hours. You do appreciate that, do you? So, they're a bit slow. They're terribly slow, this audience.
They're trying to be terribly polite, Frank, and they have now caught up. It's okay.
But a presenter is somebody who lives on his wits. I mean, for that programme, there was no autocue. I'm proud of you, because there are no words on these cameras, let me tell everybody here. That's all coming out of your head, or somewhere, isn't it?
Unfortunately, yes, that is true. That is unfortunate.
Now,
yes.
that's a presenter. Let's get the definition right.
But there is, though, this glamour that just because Nicholas, bless him, with the red hair, Witchell, reads the news, and lots of people like him, they sit there and they think that the day is going to be better because he's reading the news as opposed to somebody else.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't actually watch or listen to what the news is. They're more interested in who's presenting it.
Well, that doesn't happen so much to men, it happens to women a lot, I'm afraid, because I think the appearance of a woman on television tends to be given more emphasis than that of a man. I mean, I used to oscillate, when I did Breakfast Time with Selina Scott, for example, I used to oscillate about 2 jackets, 3 shirts and a couple of ties over a period of about 6 months, whereas she had to wear a decent, you know, different kit every day.
Oh, that sort of oscillate. I'm sorry. Yes. No,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm with you there. My mind. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But do you think that it should be given in perhaps a more straight way, where they worry about what's going to be in the background, how it's going to look? Maybe it should be just presented when we're just getting the news facts against a black or white background and nothing else.
Yeah, well, presentation, of course, is part of the game. It is showbiz, after all, even the presentation of the news. My argument is not so much with the news bulletins and the news readers. My argument, as far as television is concerned at the moment, is with the debate on the news. Now, if you take... There's terrific dissemination of news, and radio, I think, is doing it rather better than television at the moment. It's a very much easier medium.
Because you have more time.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. And in fact, you don't need as much time. I mean, television is immensely complicating, and radio isn't. But the bulletins are fine. It's the debate that I argue about. Now, we have terrific high value programmes. You've got Newsnight, right? You've got Channel 4 News. You've got Breakfast News. They're all terrifically prestigious programmes, and they deserve a place in the portfolio. But they are the portfolio, and what I'm saying is that if you ask how many people watch those programmes, it's the chattering classes speaking to each other. Nobody watches. I mean, if Newsnight gets 1 million people, that's a big audience. Channel 4 News, 750,000. Breakfast news is rather different because it's a rolling thing and people are coming and going.
And all the
now then,
politicians want to be on those.
what about the other 56 million people? Now, I was a presenter of Nationwide, which at that time filled that gap because you could present a programme in the evening in front of 10 million people, 14 million people at best, and say, we're going to have a bit of fun. You do that wonderful film about a character in Britain, you would have a bit of fun here. And while you've got 14 million people watching, you'd say, hey, by the way, the pound fell today. That's quite important. Let's discuss for a few minutes why it's important that the pound has gone up or down. Now, those people at the moment are not being... Am I being too serious?
No, that's fine. This is just for my own benefit, but when the producer or the director is chattering in your earpiece, which you don't have to wear on this occasion, he's saying, yes, he's
What's
saying,
he saying to you?
10 seconds.
Is he being vulgar?
And all that. No, he's just giving countdown.
Yeah.
It's Mike Mansfield, so you can imagine.
Yeah.
But he's sort of counting me down and saying, time to go on to the next. How do you get out of it so it looks as if you're rushing you to the end of what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. That's
it's eating
I can't
into Jerry
explain
Hayes'
that.
time, so it
I
doesn't
can't
matter,
explain
but-
that at all. I mean, either you've got that or you haven't got that. It's like coming through the glass.
I see.
Now, everybody who appears on television, hopefully, arrives on time, sober, well-prepared, all the homework done.
Not on
you
this show,
don't.
Frank. Not on this show. For the moment, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Bough. Oh! Now, how are you?
Sparkling.
Are you
sparkling,
well?
Sober
Lovely to see you.
and on time.
Okay, and on time and sober, and because you weren't here for the last couple of weeks, it had nothing to do with what happened to you, did it? Just I want that to make that absolutely clear. You just were busy.
Very busy.
Very busy. Very busy. So here we are tonight. News. Politicians don't like the way the news is portrayed, unless, of course, it portrays them or their party or their policies in a good light.
Absolutely.
But does the news media, our Sunday newspapers, our daily newspapers, do they manipulate the way we think?
Well, of course they do. Just look at the Sunday Times and look the way Andrew Neil has been presenting the case on AIDS, for example.
I knew you were going to have to talk about Andrew Neil.
No,
Can we?
we're
Listen,
like this.
Andrew,
We're like this.
Andrew
Andrew and I
isn't
are
here
like this.
tonight, all right? So
Why don't we get him on the? Why don't we get him on the program? Well, the Purgal Dan. Look at the way that is presented in a particular newspaper. Now, if I read David Banks's newspaper, which is very good.
David Banks, editor of the Mirror, who will be here a little
yes.
later. Yes.
You know there's going to be a pro-Labour slant. Same with Nigel Nelson's and with Eve's newspaper.
Do you wish to introduce the entire?
sorry,
people?
sir.
Do you want to
With Eve's
spoil everything for people at
With
home?
Eve's newspaper, which is another splendid newspaper, which hasn't slagged me off, God bless you, yet.
Well, she will now. I'll
She
tell you
will
that
now.
for nothing.
You know it's going to be a pro-Tory slant. So people aren't stupid. It's when you get a quality newspaper and you think, hang on, what are you doing,
Nothing,
James? You're not going to
nothing
get me
at
into trouble
all.
again,
no,
please?
no.
Come on.
John was on the phone.
All right.
John was on the phone.
Okay, what did
he
he
said,
say?
leave Jerry alone. Let him
Yes.
look intelligent.
Yeah,
So I'm doing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay,
Go
that's
on.
right. You know, it's not true that the BBC are relaunching Yes Minister. Have you heard this? It's true. It's going to be called Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes, Minister. That's not true. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not
That's
true.
not true.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Carry on. You go.
Yes, no,
yes,
no.
yeah,
that's-
yeah,
but,
you carry on.
What's
Yeah.
this? What do we do?
Okay. Right. Okay.
Discuss politics?
Yeah. No, it's just a little something for the band coming in a
Oh,
few
the
moments.
band.
Yes.
Oh, it's a very good band.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Anyway, back to you're not going to sidetrack us and get us
Okay,
off.
no, no.
So, do we have a press? I mean, do we have a press who takes sides? So, depending
Yes.
on which newspaper we read,
Yes.
that's the sort of slant
Yes,
on.
yeah.
But are we all aware of that enough? Do you think?
I think so, and politicians are the very own worst enemies, by and large, myself included. If one puts oneself in a stupid situation, you expect to be slagged off, and I sometimes do put myself in a stupid situation. But ministers, government
Sometimes.
ministers, occasionally, only with you, but I mean, sometimes cabinet ministers, they go on the Today programme and they get roughed up by John Humphreys or Jim Nockley, and they complain about it. Well, they should expect to be roughed up by these people, and if they can't handle themselves properly, if they can't present their no, thank you. No, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean no sleaze on this programme. I had no sleaze.
You could have ignored that. You
no,
could have ignored
no,
that.
no.
Okay, we're going to talk later because I want to find out how you felt about the recent criticism you've had in the newspapers a little bit later on. But for the moment, Jerry, just sit there because I know you're going to like this, and you can dance in a few moments. So please welcome the Sons of Geronimo and Criticise.
myself. Find all our lives to redeem ourselves. We try to make a difference. What difference does it make when I say I'm able to bring a day? And I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. Well, I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. Rise, we will rise and present ourselves. Fight for the crimes we commit ourselves. Decadent existence, decay and shrine. You go your way, and I go mine. And I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. Well, I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. We got a lot to learn. We got a lot to decadent existence, decay and shrine. You go your way, and I go mine. And I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. Well, I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. Well, I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn. Well, I don't like to criticize, no, no, no. We got a lot to learn, we got a lot to learn.
That was absolutely brilliant. Sons of Geronimo. Over to my friend over here, Keith. I know, on the camera over here, Keith. I'm with you. Okay, guys, that was great. You're coming back later. Yep. No signing. That's okay. They're going to be back. And, Michael, I'm going to find Eve. Would you shut up for a few moments? For goodness sake, it's late. I know. Cookie, we're going to do some more. Would you just go and... Frank's had to leave. He's got his cab. Anyway, go and make sure he gets into it.
Okay.
And I'll just sit down here before we go to the break, okay? And we will, of course, we're going to do some fitness and everything, because it's very popular to do fitness. Oh, gosh, it's a... Well, how are you? Right. Oh, good. I've got... Because Eve... No, you don't know this. That Eve started my TV career, didn't you?
No, you started mine, darling.
No. You were the big celebrity, and I came and I just sort of...
No, I was 14 at the time.
Oh, you nurse? That is really horrible. That is horrible. I've dedicated the competition to you as well.
Really?
Yes, sure. I mean, what was it that Eve gave to Adam in the Garden of Eden to eat?
You don't want me to tell you?
No. It's too difficult here because, of course, somebody out there will win a holiday for 2 people on the island of Crete. You have 3 choices. I've got cucumber, marrow and apple written down here, but it's something different out there. It's a pomegranate, a mango and an apple. Those are the 3. 0891 900 007. You have 3 choices. You can ring that number to midnight on Sunday. Join us again in a couple of moments for part 2. Now, fine. Thanks. Thank you. That's good. That is lovely. That is lovely. I know Jerry Hayes, if he could get this sort of response in the house, would be... Isn't he a good warm-up man?
He's a terrific warm-up.
He is, isn't he? Eve, would you walk with me? Would you come with me over here? Eve and I are going to sit over here. You come over here. Thank you very much indeed. Today we are discussing, tonight, you sit here, have a glass of water. Frank has had that glass of water, but it's fine. Can you manage with that?
I can manage.
Yes. Because I know the sound men like to do that, Eve, and I don't see why they should have all the fun, so you put it on yourself. No, Eve, just stick it on
I'm going to take my shirt.
No, please, because... Eve, anyway, as probably Fleet Street's most powerful woman, I mean, seriously, most powerful woman, and it's a bit like looking up your own whatever, but I mean, should we really look too closely about what the newspapers say? Should we really worry about whether they're biased? I mean, we've got the editor of the Mirror coming on later, and you, different political spectrums. Should we really worry? We just take a few and then we get a balanced view.
Well, first of all, I think lately, I mean, it's been the Tory press who've been criticising the Tory cabinet, Tory politicians, Tory Prime Minister.
But that's because you wanted to change the government, really, isn't it? Don't you think?
I don't want to change the government. We've just had a change of government relatively recently. I'm not sure I want to change the government, but I don't think you can say... I mean, what you've got to be very careful on newspaper, it seems to me, is to write stories which are actually news, and then you've got loads of pages which you can comment on, and that's what I believe is important. Then you can be biased, because then everybody knows where you're coming from.
OK, I've got last Sunday's Express. Obviously, we haven't got this Sunday's yet. And this is exclusive.
Yes.
That you ferreted away and found out. How come you got the story? Because they like the way you do it, so they gave it to you for your paper.
Oh, nobody gave it to us. We found the story that John Smith was secretly meeting John Major, and we ran it. Of course, it has caused a great kerfuffle. It was on all the news bulletins, and John Major has said he's going to look into it and order an inquiry into how we found out, because it was supposed to be secret. But of course, what we uncovered was a deal, or a supposed deal, that might have occurred between the Labour Party and the Tory Party, and that's up to us to actually disclose. I mean, news is something that somebody else probably doesn't want you to know.
OK, but we do balance it up by putting the fact, and a little photograph here saying that Sophie and Edward get closer, and that makes us all feel a little happier, doesn't it?
Does it?
Oh, I think so, yes.
That's a very nice photograph.
It is a very nice photograph, and it's a shame
now,
for the entire
earlier
family.
in the evening, we had a story about Clinton.
Yes.
But, because, you know, he's having a lot of trouble at the moment. But
More
then,
trouble than we're having over here. We're ignoring that. That could be very, very difficult for the entire
well, I'm
planet,
not ignoring it, darling. It'll be all right.
It'll
But, I
be
mean,
okay.
it could be very worrying, because the Americans take things very seriously when people are found when they're doing something financially wrong. What the Americans don't worry about is when politicians perhaps sleep in different beds from the ones they might...
Well, we're getting preoccupied with that at the moment, aren't we?
Over-preoccupied,
You know,
yes.
I mean, we do like to know, and we should know.
Why
but,
should we know?
Well, you know, because if they say one thing...
Oh, yeah,
and,
that's
you know,
true.
I mean,
If they're
back
being
to basics,
hypocritical,
and they're
yes.
going on and on and on, then, yes,
Well,
you should.
Back to Basics was never supposed to be that.
Well, not
That
now.
was Back to My Place. That was something else.
Oh, was that Back to My Place?
Yes.
Not Back to Basics?
No.
But I thought that changed rather well, sort of halfway through when they found that Back to Basics was backfiring on them.
Yes.
You know, that's what I thought.
But that's what it wasn't supposed... It wasn't supposed to be about sex. Back to Basics.
Do we, I mean, the Sunday newspapers are getting so big. There's, in yours, you've got 3 or 4 different little bits and pieces, and I often wonder, I mean, you look through the colour supplements, and you've got a supplement for a regional supplement as well, and everything else, and most of it's advertising.
No, most of it isn't advertising. This, for example, very wonderful
Look at it. I
section
mean,
three,
you've got...
75% editorial, that.
Yeah, well, that's just sponsored by all this other advertising in here, isn't it? No?
There is some advertising, but there's nothing wrong with advertising. After all, this programme
Of course. I don't mind that at all. Should we? I'm trying to get to the point that we all read things and we believe exactly what we read.
Do we?
I think we do. I think we don't use enough judgment, maybe. Do you feel, as an editor, that you're in a vulnerable position, you've got to make sure that you give a balanced view or not?
Well, I think you've got to make sure you tell the truth, because if you don't, you end up in the High Court paying somebody an awful lot of money. I think you've got to try and balance things out. You've got to try and explain to people what's going on. Yes, of course, the Sunday Express has a slight Tory bias, but I'm not sure all...
Slight.
Well, we have
All
a
right,
slight
okay,
Tory.
slight.
But I'm not sure all that many people buy a newspaper because of your politics. I mean, do you buy a paper because of your politics? You buy them because of Page 3 or something like that?
No. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid.
Or
I don't
the
buy them. I go
crossword,
and wait for them to, to be too late to anybody want to buy them and get them free. That's what I do. You can haggle. Well, yeah, you can go down to... You read the Sunday papers. I read the Sunday papers Monday morning.
You
I do,
don't.
honestly, I do.
What do
I
you do on the Sunday? Read the Saturday
Oh, I've got all
papers.
sorts of things to do, but I'll tell you later. Eve, we're going to come back. Is it Daily Express, you're not interested? No. I'm going to come back a little later. For the moment, ladies and gentlemen, Eve Pollard. We're actually, as the programme goes on, we are, as you can see, making news here. We're making news, very good it is. And man bites dog, famous man bites hamper? Oh, it's hamster. Sorry, Pan, that's hamster. Hamper. Film star eats my dog. Oh, okay. Right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Baz Bamming Boy.
No one's
Baz.
eaten my... Well, I have a cat, actually, not a dog.
You've never eaten the cat, I hope, Baz. That will make stories.
No,
Yes. Well,
no.
a change of this. Baz is on with us every week, and Baz comes and tells us what everybody is doing to the rich and the famous. And I'm concerned. I've been very concerned about the supermodel phenomenon.
What do you mean? Naomi and all the others with flat chests and all that sort of stuff.
No. There's sort of a lot of interbreeding seems to be going on there, because they go from one film star to another film star to a rock star and back again.
And why not?
Well, you and I never get a look in for this stuff.
Well, they like someone with a bit of style and class, James. I mean, no disrespect to you, but...
And none to you, Baz.
They want someone who moves and shakes, you know, someone
Yes,
who's
Baz.
comfortable in Paris, London, New York and LA and San Francisco, which I am, of course.
Yes,
I want
Baz.
to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm well known at the best hotels.
Where have you been recently, then, Baz? Which hotels have you been?
Oh, I don't know.
Moving along the corridors,
Some
half.
slimy old dump down the road.
And who was in the hotel that attracted you to it?
Who was in the hotel and attracted me to it? I don't know. Who would have
Baz
been
never
after?
goes to a hotel without there being a reason, I have to
Well,
tell you.
actually, I was in Paris recently.
Yeah, go on, tell us then.
Trying to track down Robert De Niro and Uma Thurman. She used to be married to Gary Oldman. And she was supposed to be in London making a film, and they were trying to find her at the studio, and they couldn't, because she was elsewhere, in Paris.
And Baz, you went all the way?
Well, I was doing other things.
Oh, I see. Did you find him?
In a manner of speaking.
I mean, I'm sure you can pick up the phone, can't you? You get onto these people. You can say, hello, Robert. You know, what's going on?
Listen,
Tell
the
me.
last time I bumped into Robert De Niro, he threatened to sort of shove a beer bottle sort of
Oh,
down
why?
my mouth. Because I'd written something about him he didn't like.
Really?
Yes.
I want to ask you. Tell me some heavy gossip of here and now. I mean, what is on the street at the moment? What's going on? What is the big tittle?
Well, I think the thing that interests me the most at the moment is Andrew Lloyd Webber and his show Sunset Boulevard. You know that Patti LuPone is the star of the show here in London. Glenn Close is the star in LA. Patti was supposed to go to New York, but now she isn't, because Andrew Lloyd Webber says investors say that they want a big star.
Glenn Close
and
coming
Glenn
over
Close,
to London?
the star, not the street, is going to play the role now on Broadway. Now, there's been a big kerfuffle. And the interesting thing is, Andrew may have to pay Patti LuPone $5 million because he's broken her contract. But he has just asked her if she would replace Glenn Close in LA. Hence, he won't have to pay her $5 million big ones. But I don't think Patti LuPone's response has been very polite.
We'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see. Ladies and gentlemen, Baz Bamming Boy! Now, for all those of you, I know how many of you from the fun house just there on the banks of the River Thames who sit and pontificate every day with Jerry and others, watch this programme. And I know that you need some kind of guidance, because what does happen when an MP is caught in flagrante? All right? How should they get out of it? Well, Nigel Nelson, the political editor of The People, is here with a few ideas. Nigel, it's over to you.
The first one, James, the first do is quite simply don't. The Commons is a goldfish bowl, as we all know. The result is the moment that one of them gets caught out, or the moment that one of them starts having an affair, somebody knows about it, someone's like to tell me. Now, if an MP can't possibly keep his trousers on, then the answer then is to take the whip's advice, which means that he ought to then have an affair with somebody who has got as much to lose as he has. Now, if you're the Prime Minister, I suppose, the answer then is for safe sex, the only person is the leader of the opposition. Finally, if you do get caught out, whatever you do, behave with dignity. Tim Yeo made a huge mistake when he was caught escaping out of the Seychelles in the back of a car. He looked more like a great train robber than a government minister. Finally, on dignity, that if you're going to bed with your mistress, whatever you do, avoid toes and Chelsea strips. When the whole thing gets out, it's going to be hugely embarrassing anyway, and what you don't want is to be turned into a national joke at the end of it. On the same subject, someone like David Mellor, don't go in for phony photo calls when your in-laws are slagging you off in the press. He did that, the whole thing looked tacky, it didn't fool anybody, and he looked just like a pillock. And finally, if you've actually been caught out, what you don't do is approach a friendly journalist you think might get you out of a hole from a different newspaper. All he's going to do is write about it too.
Nigel, we'll have some more a little later on. Thank you very much indeed, Nigel, for the moment. Now, a little music, and straight to... Am I going to Gary Jacobs? Am I going to do that? Oh, are you over there, Gary? No. Oh, sorry, yes, I'm sorry. Nigel, ladies and gentlemen, Nigel Nelson from The People. I got carried away, and I thought that I was going to go to some music. I'm sorry.
I'll sing if you like.
No. This is the point of the programme where Gary comes along and he does his legal spot. And I thought tonight it'd be nice if we actually concentrated on the press, because, of course, as Eve said earlier, if you don't like what they do, then you can sue them. But, of course, it isn't that easy.
Well, it isn't that easy, because legal aid is not available to anybody who wants to sue the press. The only people who've been able to bring really substantial actions are, in fact, people with substantial funds to do it in the first place. So therefore I'm afraid to say that there is a rule for the rich and a rule for the poor. But I think that the tendency among the press really is to go in a big way for the people with money anyway. They don't go that much for the little man in the street.
But it's even expensive for people with money to sue, really, isn't it? For a libel action is a very expensive thing to fight.
Well, they go to the top lawyers, don't they? They're called £200 an hour. I mean, there aren't many women who can charge that. I think that really the level of level of remuneration that is charged, the level of payment that these solicitors put on is really a bit ludicrous. They think that they're entitled to more than the rest of us, and I personally don't think that they're necessarily giving great value for money automatically.
Oh, I don't know, but some of them, I mean, George Carman and people like that, I mean, they get people off all sorts of wonderful things.
Yeah, well, I think that there are very, very few cases, and there are very, very few people who can do it. He's a superb actor, superb advocate, and that's what he's being paid to do, and therefore he's worth millions, isn't he, to some people.
Yes.
But I'm talking generally speaking about the lawyers, and if they put in 400 and 500 hours and they charge you £200 a time, it really is ludicrous, because I often wonder whether it's really necessary to devote that much time to it. I mean, the points at issue are normally relatively straightforward, but unfortunately the law has to take time and has to be expensive to keep the average man out of it, doesn't it?
And of course, if you've been in a newspaper recently and you need some help free, you just write to us here at Whale on MMTV 5 to 7 Carnaby Street, and Gary Jacobs will let you have it free.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
Best value
free.
in town.
And that's good, Eve, isn't it, really? Yeah. You can use it as well if you want, this system.
Oh, could I?
Yeah, of course you can.
But the truth is, of course, that when newspapers have got themselves into trouble, they quite like to pay out, you know. They do that rather than go to court.
Well, the majority don't go to court anyway. The only ones that do go to court are where, as a matter of principle, they want to hold out. The press want to hold out, and the individual wants to hold out.
Or when the individual thinks they'll win a lot of money.
Well, I think most of the circles I move in show business, they're all absolutely dying to be libelled. I know I am.
You know what that means, a television thing for winding
sorry,
up.
wind my watch.
Yeah, thank you for the moment. Right. Time for the earplugs in, but great band. I'm really impressed with that before. These are the Sons of Geronimo, and if you were dozing at this particular time, well, this ought to wake you up. Ladies and gentlemen, Paradise of Exiles.
You came into my little room and told me what I wanted to hear. With a painted smile, you served it up on a silver plate. Said if we could only carry on. Don't wanna be the one, don't wanna be the one. It's just so like yeah, you're lying. Don't wanna be the one, don't wanna be the one. It's just so lying to me, you're lying to me. You're lying. I don't wanna die in paradise. A little time now we're nervy. I don't
OK, quickly into the break. Those were the Sons of Geronimo. That happens to be the best rock band or that band of that kind since I had the first ever TV exposure of the Little Angels on this programme. You'd be big. You'd be amazing. I don't know why record companies are so slow. I really don't. That was Paradise of Exiles. And remember, the Sons of Geronimo. Before we go to the break... Oh, that sort of goes really through you, doesn't it? It sort of gets you... And Jerry Hayes, I couldn't believe what Jerry was. Anyway, right. Sorry, Jerry. No, I mean... Anyway.
Okay.
What was it that Adam gave Eve... No, it was Eve gave Adam to eat in the Garden of Eden? Was it, coming up on your screen, there we are, a pomegranate, an apple, or a mango? 0891 900 007. Ring that number anytime until midnight on Sunday. Very good. Welcome back. Here we are, late and on, as they say, whale on tonight. We're talking about the newspapers. And with us now is the editor, in fact, the new editor. Would you say the new editor? I mean, you've been there a while. Newish editor.
16 months.
The new editor, 16 months. And...
of the Daily Mirror.
Of the Daily Mirror. And David Banks, of course, is editor there. I'm just looking down here. I've heard, because we're overrunning, I'm sorry about this, Cookie was going to come on and do her Keep Fit. We're going to... I haven't seen her since she went out earlier, actually. It's strange. But anyway... Yeah. But before we do that, David, before we do that, I'm sorry about that. If Cookie does get back, where she went, I have no idea. If she does get back, we'll do it.
Bodybuilding?
I might do some bodybuilding, yeah.
Well, maybe the three of you. Maybe the three of you, seeing that Eve suggested it. But just before we do that, Nigel, what about just a few more hints for those MPs at home who haven't managed to use the press in the way that Jerry Hayes does, very well, I may say, very well over there. Just into that camera over there and tell them how they should do it.
Well, another thing to avoid is not to do a David Ashby, that if you go off on a French holiday, the one thing you don't do is share a bed with another man. You don't choose your family election literature if it turns out you've actually been having an adulterous affair, because you'll just add the charge of hypocrite to that one of being a rat. Finally, if a journalist like me catches you, be honest about it. Don't try and pretend it never happened. If we've got hard evidence, it's going to come out in the paper, and it might be slightly less vitriolic. Don't get involved with a Satsuma orange or not even a Whitehall mandarin, because if you do, the former makes you look ridiculous, and the second one is bound to talk. And finally, if you have a bit on the side, whatever you do, don't mention the phrase back to basics.
Well, very good. Nigel Nelson, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't... Eve was pulling a few phrases a little. I don't actually understand why you can't share a bed with a man. Something we all do regularly, and I'm sure, Eve, sometimes you've shared a bed with a woman, I'm sure.
No, I haven't shared a bed with a woman.
Never?
No, darling.
But not when you were on camping holidays with a Girl Guides or something
Sweetie,
like that?
would I have ever gone on a camping holiday?
No, that is a point. That is a point.
Can I just say something? I've gone down almost in bad journalistic history for not doing the story of Dennis Skinner, which we had a year ago.
But it's a non-story, isn't it?
No, because he was...
no story.
Come on. It had appeared in the News of the World. It was the front page, and everybody said it was very, very exciting. It was another MP.
But he'd left his wife a long time ago. He'd had hadn't he? I mean, it's
yeah, but I mean,
wasn't really a story.
I mean, can we say that we should run every story of every MP who doesn't actually stay with his wife every night? I mean, even if Nigel does find out an MP is having an affair with somebody like you, James, or something, I mean, why should we run it? Why do we feel we have to run those stories?
Well, you tell me. Why do you feel you have to run those stories?
I don't, and I didn't run Dennis Skinner, even though we had it a year ago.
He did look ridiculous in his muffler, though. I mean, creeping round to his girlfriend's place.
He looked no more ridiculous than half of the way they look on
And he's a bit of a prig in the
leather.
House of Commons, which is why the Tories enjoyed it so much.
So it's fair game, really, for any of you guys and Eve to have a go at politicians, because they're there, they're elected, and they should be prepared to take it.
It's not. I don't think it's a question of having a go. The trouble is, the Tories climbed into this bath of slime of their own making. They introduced back to basics. They introduced the morality question, and then they were found wanting. I mean, that is a major problem. But it's not a problem of the press's
David, then we
manufacturing.
Again, because what we're trying to discuss and what I wanted to really address on the programme tonight is, of course, the different sides. And when we pick up a paper, we pick up the Mirror. Monday, great picture. We'll talk about that in a moment. You come from one particular angle. Your angle is totally different to that of Eve. So you look at the situation in a totally different perspective. What we all ought to do, really, is we read the paper, we ought to think, well, that's some guy's or lady's view on that story, and we'll take another.
I'm not sure that's... frankly, I'm not sure that's true. Newspapers do have different political beliefs, and we push them very hard, but we push them in our comment columns. We actually do try to tell the truth. Kelvin Mackenzie, who edited The Sun, a paper which is my direct rival, said one thing before the select committee, and he said, we're not for bad, we're not for evil, we are for good. Newspapers are for good, and we are for truth, and we will try and tell the truth. That is what we try to do on the front page, on the second page, on the third page, on every page. We don't always get it right, because newspapers actually don't tell the truth. They actually end up purveying what someone else has told them is the truth. And very often there are 3 or 4 different sources. Yes, we have different political opinions, and it will always be so. And yes, the Mirror will always be identified with the left. But newspapers basically try to tell the truth on the news pages.
I mean, this is last Monday's Daily Mirror, and you have managed to get the horrific story that is unfolding in Gloucester, the House of Horrors, it's called, and you've got photographs of it.
Yep.
I mean, there have been times when people have criticised newspapers for intrusion into something that perhaps would you have printed this, Eve, if you had the photographs or not?
Well, I think they're extraordinary photographs. I'm fascinated to know, and I possibly might have a guess at how you got them. I think they are interesting, and I don't see how they can be judged as contempt, which is obviously one of the things you would have worried about.
Yep.
Everybody's fascinated to know what went on inside that house. Yes, I would have.
How did you get them then, David?
A newspaper editor never reveals his sources, and you couldn't reasonably expect to do that. I will say they didn't come from the police, they didn't come from members of the family, they came from people close to the scene. I mean, they have...
Santa Claus who's gone down the chimney with
Thank you, Santa. Thank you, Santa. But they're fantastic pictures, and they're pictures any editor would kill for.
And you did.
I'm sorry, that's unintended.
That wasn't nice. How much would you pay for something like that?
Not a lot in newspaper terms. Not a lot in newspaper terms. So you mention a figure and I'll tell you, like Bruce Forsyth, up a bit, down a bit, you know, make it out of that.
50,000?
Oh, no. A tenth of that.
A tenth of that?
Yeah.
10,000?
I was never good
5,000.
No, that's a fifth of that.
5,000?
Yeah, more. That's
up
more
10,000.
realistic.
About 10,000.
No, up a bit, down a bit. I'll make it out with that. Yeah. No.
It's worth doing it then. I see somebody made a few bob in there.
Oh yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But
Somebody always makes a few
But the
bob.
truth is, everybody looks at, say, the red tops, which are slightly different from the middle market, and then we're supposedly different from the quality market. The truth is, in fact, the heavy papers, so-called, often pay more than anybody else. I mean, the idea that we're there with our checkbooks at the ready is sort of quite mad. But the trouble is, of course, the public have learned that we do pay. And so now everybody comes to us with their hands open.
But should you pay, Eve? I mean, here you are saying, we will pay, get us some stuff. I mean, is that really another manipulation of our view of what's happening in the world?
We'd love not to pay. We're commercial enterprises. We'd like to make more money. If I don't pay anybody for my stories, I'll be richer and more successful at the end. Yeah. But the truth is, ever since anybody discovered any newspaper paid for any information, and that can be anything from a result happening in a football match to who slept with who wherever, people have come with their hand out. I mean, look at the last weekend. You had James Hewitt, who did a story in the Daily Express, and then you had every ex-girlfriend crawled out of the woodwork to...
But if you hadn't offered them money, and is that really...
You don't offer them. You can't find them. They'll come to the phone goes.
Oh, yeah.
And do you check it out? Do you make sure they actually did the deed they said they did?
Of course you have to check it out. Otherwise, Mr. Hewitt could win even more money by suing you. Usually they have a lawyer.
And usually it's from the entertainment industry. It's not at all... This is an exception. You know, people talk about checkbook journalism, and one understands by that one means criminals and people on the distaff side of the law. Not at all. No no celebrity, no person in entertainment will now speak to a newspaper without being paid for it. And yes, we try and hammer that back and try to tamp that down. But that's the name of the game now.
Sport,
Nigel.
in particular.
Sport, yeah.
How do you feel about this? I mean, would you do some of these dastardly things? Would you be slipping fivers into the hands of somebody who managed to get over the wall and get photographs like this?
I'm afraid so. As Eve says, it is the name of the game. That people do come forward, that if politicians are caught out, and we've got endless numbers of people now who are coming forward and saying they're sleeping with politicians because there's been some publicity about it, they can see there's money to be made.
Do you get bored with, I mean, sorry, you're the political editor, of so that you are interested only in politics, but do you ever get bored just being in that I mean, Eve can do and David can do whatever they like. They can get into any sphere.
No, I'm a political addict. I love the House of Commons. I get a thrill every time I walk through the portals of the place.
Well, they should...
And no, it doesn't bore me. And so much goes on there.
Unfortunately.
And so much goes on there once you get inside that it's always exciting every day. And that's why that's what I want to be for the rest of my life.
OK, we're coming to the end of the programme, but what we need is a real sort of juicy tidbit to go out on. Are there lots of people sleeping with people? Are you getting lots of people calling you and saying, listen, we did this, we did... I mean, have you got a file? You can be keeping it going for a few years?
Dossier.
We are getting calls, James, but what I suggest is read the Sunday People this coming Sunday.
Are you going to run out?
There's 651 of them. You won't run out.
You won't run out at all?
You won't run out, no.
And lastly, perhaps we should know more of them, because I was finding it very difficult to mention more than about 10 or 15, name 10 or 15 out of the 651 MPs in Parliament.
Well, it is about the size of a sort of middle-ranking public school, which is what the place is like. I suppose people actually know, about 100 MPs I would know, and another 300 or 400 I'll obviously know by name. But yes, there are the obscure ones you never hear of. Suddenly, like Hartley Booth, David Ashby, they suddenly get into the frame. But yes, there are a lot of people who keep their head down. You see very little of them. OK. The advice is, of course, to get in touch, find a story, get in touch with any of my guests on the programme tonight. And who knows, you can make a lot of money as well. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to Baz. Thank you to Gary. Thank you to Jerry. And, of course, the sons of Geronimo. Next week, we are looking at style. If you want to be just as you should be, join us for next week's programme. In the meantime, have a nice weekend from all of us. A very good night. Bye-bye. Thank you. Well, there we are. OK.